Hello, this is Dr. Benjamin Norris from the Chemistry Department at Frostburg State University. Today I'm going to talk to you about using the Marvin drawing tool within Moodle. Marvin is a JavaScript-enabled chemical structure drawing applet, which is available from ChemAxon. You can download a free version of it from ChemAxon to use for student and educational uses. We are also hosting our own version of the Marvin drawing tool on Moodle. At the top of course pages that use the Marvin drawing tool, you will often see a link to the standalone Marvin drawing tool. If that link isn't visible, you can find Marvin at https://rosalind.frostburg.edu/marvin. The version of the drawing tool that you find at this website contains all of the possible features of the Marvin drawing tool, some of which are not enabled within a particular course or assignment. You can use the tools to draw the structures of molecules, and then you can take these structures and embed them into other sources. The safest way to take this structure and put it into another document is to save it as an image. Move your cursor up to the diskette option for save, click on it, and you have the option to save it as a structure. Doing so saves it as markup language that another drawing application like Marvin or any of these other files formats can read. However, as you can probably tell, this file format is not designed for human use. You can also click on Image, choose your image format, and change how big you want it to be, whether you want the background to be transparent or white, and other aspects of the image. Perhaps you want lone pairs to be shown when you save it as an image. Perhaps you want all carbon atoms to be shown and all explicit hydrogen atoms to be shown. When you study organic chemistry, you understand why you may or may not wish to show carbon labels. And then you click Download, and you're given an opportunity to tell your computer where you want to store that image. If you were to just select the whole structure and copy it, and then open up your favorite word processor, so I'm going to open up Word, and paste it, it would paste in some of that code gibberish that you don't know how to understand. The safest way to insert an image from the Marvin drawing software into a Word document or other document is to save it as a picture first. Now, let's go see how Marvin is incorporated into some of the question types that you might be asked on an assignment. So we're going to click on this tutorial on the Marvin drawing tool. This tutorial is set up like a quiz so that I can highlight the different questions. One type of question that you might be asked involves you drawing the structure of a molecule. In the Marvin tool, you start structures by clicking on the single bond icon. When you click that single bond icon into the drawing pane, carbon-carbon bond, Marvin automatically fills in the hydrogen atoms that are attached to each of these carbons. When you learn about organic chemistry, you will learn about implicit hydrogens and how we generally don't show them. Marvin will keep track of your hydrogen atoms for you so that you don't accidentally make valence errors. In the structure we've been asked to reproduce, we have 3 bonds radiating out from a central atom. 2 of the positions on these bonds are CH3s, and 1 is an OH. Currently, on what I have drawn, I have CH3s. If you missed what I did, I will go back and show you. To add another bond, simply click on the atom where you want that bond to appear, and a new bond will form. Whichever atom or bond is active is highlighted in green. We want to change one of these CH3s to an oxygen atom. Over on the right is a list of atoms that you can substitute in. If you don't see the atom that you want, there is an option to click on and load up a periodic table, and you can drop in any atom of your choice. Oxygen, however, is already in the list of commonly chosen atoms. So we select oxygen, and then all we do is click where we want that oxygen to go. It is also possible to change the identity of an atom at any position by typing the letter of that atom when you have selected that position. So if I move my mouse over a CH3 and type O for oxygen, the oxygen gets filled in. I don't want an oxygen here, so I will type C for carbon to bring back the carbon. Let's check our answer. We got this one correct. Let's move on to the next part of the tutorial, where we'll talk about how to draw multiple bonds. To draw a structure containing multiple bonds, first, create all of the single bonds. Marvin, by default, creates an angle between all of the bonds that it draws. But if you click and hold and drag your mouse around, you can create whatever bond angle you want. On questions that require structure drawing, bond angle is usually not included in the graded aspects. So even if your structure does not perfectly match the bond angles that might be expected, Marvin can interpret it and grade you appropriately. To convert a single bond into a double bond, all you have to do is click on that bond. However, clicking on a double bond in Marvin converts it back into a single bond. This is because single bonds and double bonds are significantly more common than triple bonds. It would be nice if clicking a third time took you to the triple bond, but it does not. How then do we add the triple bond? If you come over to the single bond tool and click on the little arrow in the lower right hand corner of that box, you will see other types of bonds that you can draw. Select the triple bond. Don't worry if that other tools do not show up when you first click on that arrow. Sometimes it can take a few tries to get your mouse in the exact right place. Once you have the triple bond tool selected, click where you want the triple bond to go. If you want to go back to the single bond or to purposefully draw double bonds or other kinds of bonds, all you have to do is bring back up this menu. You also have the option to get a pencil, and you can just draw molecules using the pencil tool, and with the pencil tool, clicking on the double bond converts it to a single bond. The pencil tool might feel more intuitive if you're used to drawing molecules on paper. Some of the other advanced bond types are uncommon in introductory chemistry courses, and we won't use them. Let's check this answer. Oops, we got this answer incorrect because I left this other thing in here. Let's get rid of it. Here's the selection tool. Click and drag to select molecules that you want to select. You can either use the scissors key to cut out this particular structure, or you can hit the delete key on your keyboard. Let's check it again. Marvin still thinks this structure is incorrect. That's strange because it matches the structure I have drawn. If you're doing a question and you feel like you've got the correct answer, but Moodle isn't giving credit for it, feel free to come up to the question box up here and click the little flag button. The flag button informs your instructor that there is something that you want them to check about this question. I have created this flag icon so that now I can go through and try to figure out what is not acting correctly about the way this question is graded. Let's move on to the next question. Here's another drawing question, but we're going to use another type of bond. The solid and dashed wedges in the structure shown indicate the three-dimensional orientation of those groups of atoms. In organic chemistry, the three-dimensional orientation of atoms is very important. We also have in this structure a cyclic group of bonds, and Marvin provides some tools for drawing cyclic structures without having to construct each bond individually. You'll see down at the bottom of the drawing tool some pre-generated structures that contain cycles. Since our molecule looks like a hexagon, we want to choose the cyclohexane structure that looks like a hexagon. And then we want to fill in the double bond where it's shown. And then use the single bond tool to select the wedged tool. We will put in a solid wedge, and we will put in a dashed wedge, and we want to change the group on the dashed wedge to an oxygen. There we go. Further on in organic chemistry, you will learn about stereoisomerism, and you will learn that this particular molecule is chiral. Any representation of this molecule that produces the correct isomer, regardless of how it's drawn, Marvin will recognize as correctly. In general, the orientation of a molecule is not important for the way that Marvin grades it. If we'd have drawn this thing upside down but otherwise drew the correct structure, we would get full credit for it. Let's check our answer. We got this one correct. Another type of question that you might be asked using the Marvin drawing tool is to select atoms or bonds. Here is a question where we have been asked to select the oxygen atoms in the following structure. The select tool is highlighted by default. All you have to do to select something is to click on it. I have clicked on one of the oxygen atoms in the structure, but there's another one. Let's click on it. Uh-oh. When I click on the second oxygen, the first oxygen is no longer highlighted. In order to highlight two things, hold down the Shift key while you are clicking to highlight multiple things. And we will check our answer. Correct. As mentioned earlier, you can also highlight entire structures. It's also possible to highlight bonds. If you click on the bond, it will highlight the bond in both atoms in the bond. Again, you can hold down Shift to highlight multiple bonds in the molecule. If you accidentally highlight something you didn't mean to, all you have to do is click on it again to unhighlight it. Be very careful on these types of questions. If you delete part of the structure, the question becomes broken and you might not be able to recover the structure. Fortunately, I know what the structure looks like and I'm going to redraw it. But generally, on questions that ask you to select atoms or bonds or entire molecules, you should be very careful not to accidentally delete what you have been asked to select. And of course, now I'm having trouble bringing up the drawing tool. Even though I got this one wrong. Oh, fortunately, when I got it wrong, the structure regenerated itself. But if you delete part of the structure, you're very likely to be unable to recreate it until you get the answer wrong. Let's move on. One other type of drawing question that you might be asked involves showing arrows that represent electron movement. In the study of organic chemistry, we use arrows to help us understand the changing of positions of electrons in the forming and breaking of covalent bonds. We want to add arrows to the structure at the bottom so that it matches this image here. The arrow tool is on the left menu, but it is pretty far down. we have to scroll down the left menu using the scroll buttons at the bottom until the arrow button appears. Click on it, and then click where you want the arrows to start. We want to add an arrow that starts at this double bond and goes to the carbon atom. Click on the double bond and drag to the carbon atom. There's that arrow. You might be tempted when you are starting at an atom to click and drag from the atom, but that does not actually work. When you are starting from an atom, you'll notice that when you mouse over the atom turns green and the background turns gray. Click on the atom and it will zoom in on that atom so that you can click on one of the lone pairs. Now you are clicking and dragging from a lone pair to the destination of that arrow. Drawing arrows requires a little bit of practice regardless of whether you're doing it on paper or on a computer. So take some time to practice doing it. The final thing that you may be asked to do using the Marvin drawing tool is to insert a structure into a passage of text. Anywhere that this text box editor shows up, you will likely have the option to load the Marvin drawing tool and insert a structure. The Marvin drawing tool is found on the toolbar of the text editor, and it's this hexagon icon that when you put your mouse on it says chemical structure. When you click on it, it pulls up a Marvin editor and you can draw and do whatever it is that you want. Let's draw a structure. Here we go. If we want to insert this into our text, all we do is click Insert. I might encourage you to resize the default width and height. 600 pixels wide and 100 pixels tall makes for an awkward shaped image. This image or this structure is wider than it is tall, so I might keep the width longer than the height, but I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Uh-oh, something weird happened. Occasionally when you are trying to input a structure and Moodle is attempting to create the image, something does not quite work properly, and you get this broken image icon. Don't worry. If you just double click on it, the image properties box will pop up and you will see your image, and all you have to do is click Save, and now your structure is visible. Any of the things that you could do in any of the questions, such as selecting atoms or bonds, drawing arrows, or many other features, are available when you want to add a structure to a text area like this one. If you have any other questions about using the Marvin editor in your course, make sure you contact your instructor so that you learn how to do it appropriately for what your instructor needs. Thank you for watching.